we have returned. You're listening to CSC Talk Radio. This is Beth Ann. America Remembered is the title of this show. And we have to remember the history of other nations as well to know where we're going. You know, our founding fathers did that. They looked to history to figure out where they were going to go when they decided what to do with this nation. Let's continue on with Paul Harvey's article, Freedom to Chains. All this in less than 200 years. What is the secret of our success? Well, I think it had to do with a basic American's creed. Perhaps it never passed a pioneer's lips in this form, but if it had, I think he would have said something like this: I believe in my God, in my country, and in myself. I know that sounds like a trite, too simple thing to say, and yet it's a rare man today who will dare to stand up and say, I believe in my God and my country and in myself, and in that order. When the early American pioneer just turned his eyes toward the West, there were only Indian trails, or traces as they were called, for him to follow through the wilderness. Do you know that today you can roller skate from Miami to Seattle, from San Diego to Plymouth Rock? In this little bitty instant, as historical time is measured, our 7% of the Earth's population has come to possess more than half of all the world's good things. How come? Well, sir, when that early pioneer turned his eyes toward the West, he didn't demand that somebody else look after him. He didn't demand a free education. He didn't demand a guaranteed rocking chair at eventide. He didn't demand that somebody else take care of him if he got ill or got old. There was an old-fashioned philosophy in those days that a man was supposed to provide for his own and for his own future. He didn't demand a maximum amount of money for a minimum amount of work, nor did he expect pay for no work at all. Come to think of it, he didn't demand anything. That hard-handed pioneer just looked out there at the rolling plains stretching away to the tall green mountains and then lifted his eyes to the blue skies and said, Thank you, God. Now I can take it from here. The spirit isn't dead in our country. It's dormant. It's been discredited in some circles, driven underground, but it isn't dead. It's just that a few seasons ago, politicians baited their hooks with free barbecue and trading Ponzi promise for votes, began telling us, we don't want opportunity anymore, we want security. We don't want opportunity, they said, we want security. And they said it often enough that we became to believe them. We wanted security. And they gave us chains. And we are secure. Suddenly, with our constitutional guarantees depleted, with our national character eroding away, with our tax laws penalizing those who would dare to prosper, with workers concentrating on how little they can get by with instead of how much they can produce, suddenly we looked overhead one day to discover that the first to the moon in space was a Russian accomplishment. The free men dragging their feet had been outdistanced by slave workers dragging their chains. And we were sore afraid. Perhaps this was a disguised blessing, too. Maybe a dramatic accomplishment by this Cold War adversary was necessary to get us off our dead centers and back to work again. If we can revive in ourselves, then in our youth, something of that basic American's creed, the horizon has never, ever been so limitless. For man stands now on the threshold of his highest adventure of all, his first faltering footstep into space. 20 years from today, half of the products you will be using in your everyday living aren't even in the dictionary yet. We've got it made. If we just keep on keeping on, we've got it made. And if we don't, we will follow those other great nation-states of history into the graveyard of ignominious oblivion. History promises only this for certain. We will get exactly what we deserve. From freedom to chains, If we continue down this path, as he said, and we don't have far to go, we will have gone full circle from freedom to chains, from bondage to spiritual faith, from spiritual faith to great courage, from courage to liberty, from liberty to abundance, from abundance to complacency, from complacency to apathy, from apathy to dependence, from dependence back into bondage. Remember our history. Hold it close. The good, the bad, and the ugly. For here in America, we're no different than these other nations that collapsed before, as Paul Harvey reminded us with his little history jaunt there in that article. He had a way with words to let us realize, yeah, that's kind of what happened. America remembered. Our history is rich. I didn't say it was always pretty, but it is rich. We are unlike any other nation in this world. There's none like America. I'm going to share another reading with you. It's from a 2020 campaign, a campaign ad for President Donald Trump. Whether you liked or disliked the man, I believe he genuinely loves this nation. I don't know who wrote this, but if you have any love for this nation, it will move you. We need to always come together as a people. We have a mission in this nation as a people to preserve and protect life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, property, and prosperity. I believe in you, America. With all my heart, I believe in you. And I believe in the ingenuity of American scientists, inventors, and entrepreneurs. I don't believe in politicians. Why? Why do I believe? Because I do. My heart is absolutely filled with awe and wonder of how this nation of Americans began, how they fought and gained independence, how their spirits longed for that, and eventually became the largest, richest, and most powerful nation in the world, America. Before we read this, I want you to think about America. Think about those Norman Rockwell paintings or any other simple paintings. Think about the artists that you know, how they can see something and paint it. You know, sometimes if you have your picture painted, I've never had it painted. I had somebody draw it with pencil once, and I thought, well, I don't have that many wrinkles. Where'd they come up with that? Sometimes what we see, the reality of this nation, is not always pretty. But when you drive up and down, have you ever done what they call a prayer walk? You just walk up and down the street or another street or a different neighborhood, and you pray for those houses or those people as you walk by. America, we are one people. One people. It doesn't matter your color. It doesn't matter if you live on the coast, if you live on one side of the nation or the other, on the mountaintop, in the plains, in the flyover states. We are one. Doesn't matter our occupation. It doesn't matter where we live. We are one in spirit. We are one under God. But we've forgotten that, like other nations in the past. And we've allowed ourselves to get lazy and gave politicians our freedom. And they've given us chains. You're listening to CSC Talk Radio. When we return, I'm going to read to you something I'm just calling it America, as we continue this show, America Remembered. And we will be right back.